By 1879, Ludwig completed the Palace Linderhof, intended as another memorial to Louis XIV of France. Called a white Rococo confection, Linderhof might have startled residents of the French palace Trianon. It was an exact copy, set just 50 miles from Neuschwanstein. On a covert mission to France, the fairy tale king had copied the design. The Linderhof was only the second of 3 sumptuous residences Ludwig was building, and at his death, architects were drawing plans for more. For the royal romantic, Linderhof was a celestial retreat where he could cultivate his new obsession. This one would introduce scandal to the grievances mounting against Ludwig. Male lovers. This is the Munich actor Josef Kainz. He accompanied King Ludwig on vacations to Switzerland and met him for trysts at the Linderhof. There, the two would indulge in opium while enjoying the geometric intricacies of this Moorish kiosk. Ludwig had it transplanted intact from a park in Bohemia. Despite these treasures, Kainz found Ludwig boring. After 2 years, he left. But perhaps the young actor had grown frightened, for also at Linderhof is the striking and disturbing Venus Grotto. It is a cave set deep into the earth. To the uninitiated, it probably looked like the mouth of Hades. It was here Ludwig's love of drama finally drove him underground. Once again, stage decorators collaborated with architects to recreate the fantastic. In this case, a stage design for Wagner's Tannhäuser, as performed by the Munich Opera. Behind the gaudy facades, one machine made waves, another manufactured rainbows. Both were powered by the first electric plant to reach Bavaria. But the place is devoid of romance, a garish subterranean tomb. After feeding swans brought to him from the castle's outdoor ponds, Ludwig would climb into the boat, which is shaped like a seashell. Then, usually alone, the sovereign king of Bavaria would have himself rowed round and round the eerie, artificial lake. By 1886, the king's detractors, his royal family, and government ministers had found their common purpose. Together, they manufactured evidence of the king's insanity, including entries in his diary that later proved to be forgeries. One of their more subtle stories was that the main stairway at Neuschwanstein was reserved for Ludwig's use alone. At the slightest violation of this rule, the king would fly into a most unkingly rage. This story, and others like it, were false. But the stairway did hold a special place in the king's heart. At the top of the Salzburg marble steps floats a glittering, star-filled sky. The central column of the staircase, a majestic date palm, appears to hold up the roof of heaven. A believer all his life, Ludwig must have felt that such a vision awaited him when this world's trials lay behind. He had just one more to endure. The king's enemies, abetted by psychiatrists, compiled an extensive psychological profile of Ludwig. They especially noted his romantic excesses. Their goal was to prove that the king was incapacitated by mental illness. To achieve it, they gathered interviews from dozens of people, few who'd actually had much contact with Ludwig, many with reason to resent him. No examination of the king was ever made. As for Ludwig, there's little doubt he foresaw the impending coup. Local townspeople even offered him a plan of escape, but the king seemed resigned to his fate. Shortly before the catastrophe, Ludwig wrote to the American author Lou Vanderpool, Insults wound me so deeply that they disarm me. They force me to the ground, and I am sure they will one day destroy me. I am called a fool. Will God call me a fool when I am summoned before him? Only in its final sad scene would Ludwig's life take on the epic proportions of the Wagnerian operas he so much admired. The heroes he had failed to emulate in deeds, he would now join in tragedy. June 10th. At 4 in the morning, a government commission seized the king at Neuschwanstein and sped him away to a prison at Berg Castle. They paused only to change horses. On the evening of June 12th, he went for a walk with his physician, Dr. von Guden, around Starnberg Lake. Earlier in the day, the doctor had remarked that the king seemed obedient, even willing to undergo treatment that would cure him. Mysteriously, as the two set out, von Guden dismissed the guards assigned to accompany them. His reasons for doing so are still the subject of heated speculation. King Ludwig II and Dr. von Guden were never seen alive again. A frantic search by the castle staff revealed the king's coat near the lake. Several hours later, the search party turned up his hat. Soon the bodies were discovered, drowned. To mark the spot, this cross was erected by the villagers of Leoni, Bavaria, faithful to their king to the end. Officially, Ludwig's death was ruled a suicide. The government swamped the press with evidence of his insanity before his body was cold. A few weeks later, Neuschwanstein was opened for tourism. Allegations of conspiracy persist to this day. To his beloved countrymen, their favorite king lives on through his extravagant creations. For us, his legacy is a blend of fantasy and tragedy that challenges the mind. As the king himself once wrote, "I want to remain forever an enigma to myself and to others."